Well, Eryk, thank you very much for joining the podcast, man.
Man, my pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think you watched UFC yesterday. What's your
Yeah.
take on the main event, and what are the other fights that you really liked?
Man, I don't think there was a bad fight on the whole card. As far as the main event, I think it over delivered. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
thought that they would come out there and wrestle a little bit. But it's really pleasing for the eye, for especially like casual fans and stuff, when you see guys standing toe to toe and throw punches. Because everybody's seen a fight, man. If you watch a fight, you can kind of look at a fight and be like, yeah, he landed more punches or whatever, so he won the fight. But with the grappling exchanges and jiu-jitsu and stuff, I don't think, somebody will be sitting on top, throwing punches, and people will say that, he's humping him or whatever, but, I think the fighters and stuff know that, like, man, if you can't get out from underneath somebody, you're losing the fight. So I think for the fans, the casual fans, and everybody who watched, fighters included, they really enjoyed the striking output by those two.
and what's your take on the stoppage?
Man, I think it was fair. He dropped him twice. He already had a broken jaw, man. He was just kind of holding on to that single leg, not really advancing his position. So I always feel like when guys get stuck in those positions, they're just kind of waiting to die kind of thing. Not literally dying, but they're just going to keep taking
Yeah.
more damage. They're not doing much to keep from taking damage other than, like, ducking their head. So, you get the fight, 10 more seconds, 15 more seconds, and it's going to have to be stopped by anybody anyway. So, I like to see guys go out on their shield. I'm sure, Colby Covington would have wanted to go out on a shield, but I don't think it was a bad stoppage at all.
What's your take on the other fight, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski?
I think Volkanovski solved the riddle, man. Max Holloway, he's got such a height and size advantage over everybody at 145 that he's just been really hard to figure out and beat, especially with that cardio and that output that he has. So, I think it was good to see, Volkanovski go out there and, slow him down a little bit with the leg kicks, made him fight southpaw for a little bit, which he started to run away with it, I feel like, in those middle rounds when, Max Holloway was standing left-handed. So, man, he did a good job, man. The dude's quick, fast, powerful. He's got all the attributes. But I think the thing that, we really saw was his fight IQ. He didn't rush things. He didn't just charge in, 2, 3 punches and he got out the way. And he could take a shot too. I think Volkanovski is the real deal, man.
I was surprised by his post-fight interview, not interview, but octagon speech. He was so calm, like he expected it, like nothing happened. He just dethroned Max, and he's just like, yeah, whatever.
Man, I'm sure when you're in a room with guys like Israel Adesanya, Dan Hooker, guys, they Kira, France, whatever his name is, who fought the baby assassin.
Hmm.
Man, iron sharpens iron. So, man, if you're in a room full of great guys, you have no choice but to be great. So, it's no surprise to me that, the guy's on like an 18 fight winning streak. And, I think those guys down there in New Zealand are doing really big things.
And speaking of winning streaks, you're on a 2-fight winning streak, and I don't think a fight for you was announced yet, although you've been very busy last year and a half. Are you taking some time off, or what's your plan?
Yeah, man. I've had a busy professional career in
Yeah.
general. I think I turned pro in 2015, so I've had 16 fights in 4 years. It's like 4 fights a year. So I think it was important for me to take a little bit of time off, let some nagging injuries heal, rest, recuperate, recover, be a normal person for a little bit, reset mentally, physically, and man, I'll be ready to go. First quarter of next year. So, hopefully I'll get some signed and on paper here pretty soon.
How does it typically work for you? Do you wait for UFC to reach out and ask for a particular fight, or you choose your own fights? What's the...
I mean, sometimes they just come back to back. Like I fought Tim
Mhm.
Williams, and less than a month later, I was fighting Tiago Santos. You know,
It was a great fight, by the way. It was a fascinating fight.
appreciate it. But you know, I fight Lyoto Machida, and I don't fight for 6 months. You know, so man, it's crazy, but man, you know, I just kind of pop up sometimes at like UFC events, and you know, find the matchmakers, and I just kind of, you know, be tapping them on the shoulder, hey, I want to fight, and just kind of annoy them and bug them, you know, a little bit, and you know, you ask enough times, they'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, and you have really interesting style of fighting. It's like fan friendly, so I don't think you have a hard time landing any fights. I'm curious, like when you learn the first time about the fight, the upcoming fight, and you know who your opponent is, what's your preparation typically look like?
Man, you know, I live in the gym. You know, I train every day, Sundays included.
How many times a day?
It depends. You know, I started to realize the recovery aspect is just as big and important as like the diet and the training itself. So, you know, I train at least 2-3 times a day. The intensity may vary, you know, depending on how my body feels, how tired I am and whatnot. But, you know, we get after it a pretty good bit. So, you know, really the only thing that changes when I get a fight, you know, lined up is the intensity of training. Like, I don't take, like, rest, you know, everything's intense, you know. Add a few more cardio sessions if I'm fighting at 85, because you know I gotta get the weight off and whatnot. But man, you know, I do my strength and conditioning. I wrestle every day. I do jits every day. I box, kickbox every day. I do everything every day. Really, the only thing that changes is the intensity and how much cardio and you know what kind of diet I'm on.
And do you watch the tape of the opponent, or you just have your own style and you don't care what the opponent brings to the table?
Man, I watch film and like dissect my opponent. You know, okay, so if I push the pace, he's gonna break, he's gonna get tired. You know, he's mentally weak or he's mentally strong. You know, these things. You know, as far as like skill set, like analysis and stuff, man, I have to believe that you know that these guys are training just as hard as I am and putting in the same kind of work I am. And so I have to believe if they're doing that they're gonna show up better than they were in their last fight. Like I always do in all my fights. So, you know, it's hard to like, okay, this is what he's going to do every rep because he may have a new wrinkle. So, man, you know, once I kind of figure out like his style, like Mershar, you know, the guy had 40 fights. He's looking to get the fight to the ground. Competent on his feet, but looking to get the fight to the ground. Man, he attempted one takedown attempt. You know, so if I fight the whole fight, thinking that he's going to try and take me down, you know, I probably lose that fight. You know, I probably get outstruck, you know, outpointed, and whatnot. So, you know, I just like to go out there and do what I do, impose my will, and do what I have to do to break the guy or finish him.
You mentioned you also look at whether they are mentally strong or weak. How do you determine that?
Well, you got to look at the adversity of, you know, they may have been put in other fights. You know, I think the big, like, for example, like Israel Adesanya, I think the big question mark was how tough the guy was. But then you watch Kelvin Gastelum. All right, man, you got to kill that dude. You know, you watch the Kelvin Gastelum fight, you got to kill that dude. Who was his last fight? Who won the belt? Robert Whittaker. Man, the dude, he's the fastest evolving guy. So you really can't go in there with a game plan against Israel Adesanya because he also has a game plan. So man, you just got to go out there and do what you do. And you know, if a guy gets touched, you see him back up, you go, okay, so you don't like to get hit, you know, things like this, little key details like that.
Did you expect Israel to win that fight against Whittaker?
Yeah, like I said, you know, he's the fastest evolving dude, I think, in MMA, especially with the ground and grappling. And you know, obviously we know his striking is phenomenal. Robert Whittaker has been dropped and finished before, knocked out before. So, you know, it's possible for that to happen, which it is for everybody. But the probability, I think, is higher on Whittaker's side because it's happened before, right?
Yeah.
So, man, just all the stuff that Adesanya brings to the table. I kind of thought that Robert Whittaker would kind of do what he did, just run in, blitz, and get out. But, man, he got there and stayed there. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
move.
Yeah.
And, and that's when Israel Adesanya caught him with the, I think it was a right hook or whatever. But, yeah, dude, I figured that Whitaker would get caught trying to blitz in like that.
So you changed your weight class. Is it permanent or it's temporary? You
Man, I
can't.
get in where I get in where I fit in, man. Whatever name and weight comes on the contract or whenever the call comes, man, cool. Sometimes I don't even read the contract or care. I have my manager sign it for me and turn it in, and he just says, "Hey, you're fighting
Tomorrow.
so and so on this day." Yeah, exactly. So I truly enjoy the competition part of it. It's not about going there and beating somebody up. It's not about going in there and submitting somebody. It's just about going there, imposing my will, showing all the training and work that I put in, and letting it come out in a fight. And I guess if you watch my fight, you'd think I'm brawling, but man, I'm really trying, especially in my last fight. I'm trying new things, and as a result, man, I get punched a little bit more. But once I figure these things out, man, I think there's no doubt in my mind. I'll be in that top 5 and in title contention by the end of 2020.
Oh, that's very ambitious. That's cool. I have no doubt about it. And what's your goal? Is it the title? Is it the financial part of it, or combined? Or as you mentioned, you just like the aspect of competition in that?
Man, I think it's all those things combined into one. I think after it's all said and done with, and I can turn around and tell my kids that.
Yeah.
However far I get, wherever I get, I'm the best fighter that I could have been. I left every stone. I never left a stone unturned. I never skipped a training session. I never slacked off. I never did this, did that, and did everything to the best of my ability. I'll sleep easy at night,
You came to UFC from LFA, right? And where you were a middleweight champion. How was walk me through the whole situation, how that happened, and when did they call you, and what did you think originally? Were you like excited or?
Yeah, of course, man. Anybody who fights, their dream is to fight in the UFC. It's the pinnacle of the sport, man. It's the highest, caliber of fighter that you're gonna fight in the UFC. So, man, I won the belt, and it was just kind of, like I said, man, I'm always training, man. I fought on Saturday, got home, was back in the gym on Monday or Tuesday. Kind of limited in what I could do because I had like a stress fracture in my hand, or my hand was pretty swollen. It was my left hand, the money maker, so I couldn't really, I couldn't fight. So they actually called me to fight Trevin Giles, and I was just like, man, I cannot do that with my hand. My hand it looked like Professor Clump, man. It was super swollen. Then they called me like 2 or 3 weeks later, and it was like, hey, you want to fight Rafael Natal? And, man, I told my coach, my manager, I was like, man, I don't think my hand is 100% yet. But, man, if I say no again, they're not going to call a third time. This is the UFC. Everybody wants to fight for them. So I said yes on 10 days' notice, went out there and
knock him out.
Yeah, but that's what you want, man. You wait for that call. I didn't think that would happen after 8 fights, but whatever. I got my opportunity, and I took full advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, and you've done fantastic. And then in a couple of fights, you were fighting Machida, and he's a legend, right? Like, how was it to know that you're going to be fighting this guy? And he's been around for so long. And were you excited, or were you nervous about it?
No, I wasn't nervous, man. I don't think I've ever been nervous for a fight past like my first 2 or 3 amateur or professional fights. Just because I know I belong in this upper echelon of fighters. Like, I'm here. Like, but, man, I wasn't nervous or excited or anything. It was just like, man, this is my opportunity. I beat this dude. I think he was number 12 in the division. I think back then, I was thinking like too far forward. Like, I didn't give myself a fair evaluation. I was knocking everybody out, or just, beating everybody really bad. So, I had no doubt that I could do that to Machida. And just that period in my career, I think I fought 4 times that year and lost 3 of them. And man, I think I was just a little too big for my britches, you know. Didn't really understand, like, this isn't just go out there and punch somebody in the face, man. There's, like, lateral footwork. There's, like, things that the OGs know that the young guys might not know yet, that you can only learn as you fight and gain experience. So it was good experience. Arguably won the fight, you know. But and I would have been in the top 15 then. So, you know, now, you know, I don't think I was prepared with, you know, I didn't have enough experience to be there. Now, you see other guys come from other combat sports, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, or whatever, and they can do that. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying to punch people as hard as I can. And I think as you watch my fight since then, there's been a constant evolution in my fighting style and my, my technique and what I can and can't do. So, you know, I think I'm ready now. Maybe not then, but definitely now.
Yeah, to be fair, that even the losses you had, they were like split decisions. They could go either way. So I think you're being too hard on yourself.
Yeah, maybe. But they wouldn't be split decisions if I knew how the judges scored cards and like Machida, he was leg kicking me in my head. I'm like, that ain't shit. It's not doing any damage. I'm not even flinching. But to the judges, these are significant strikes. So if you look at it on paper, Machida beat me, whatever, a lot more significant strikes that I didn't feel were significant. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it, the judges think it was significant. So it's not what I think, it's what the judges think. So, now when I fight, I kind of think okay, I need to have more output because the judges, he's touching me more. So the judges are seeing it for him, or he's moving more, he's making it look fancy or whatever. So these are all things that you learn through experience.
And you came to MMA from football, and you played for University of Alabama, and you guys won championship, right? Or 2009 or?
That's right.
Why did you decide to transition to MMA?
People think that I just said, I don't want to play football anymore, I'm going to go do MMA. That's not the case. MMA was the last resort. I wanted to play football. It didn't pan out. I didn't make it in the NFL. I didn't make it in Canada. Played a year of arena. And, pretty much said if it's not the NFL, then I don't want to play. And I had already had a son, so I was, tired of being gone from him. So, I came back to Alabama and found whatever work I could, doing whatever I could. And then, I got introduced to Walt Harris. Yeah. And, man, he was super nice dude, man. He's like, man, come by the gym. He was training here in Birmingham at a different gym than we train at now. So I was like, hell yeah. I walk into the gym and the coach, he's like, can you fight? I grew up fighting, little street fights, little skirmishes here and there, locker room type stuff. And I said, hell yeah, I can fight. I said, okay, cool. Go, here's some gloves, go get in the ring. And then Walt walks in the ring. I was like, man, is this the dude? I'm fighting this dude. And I was like 245. I was like damn near 250. And Walt was like 260 at the time, 270. So I was like, cool. But, I thought I could fight till I, got in there and sparred with somebody who knew how to fight. Walt was already a professional fighter, solid boxer, super athletic, footwork, hand speed, all that. You name it, he's got it. And lefty. And, man, I spent probably 4 minutes and 50 seconds in the corner with, being a punching bag. So, but it was right then and there when I was like, man, this is what I want to do, man. I love this, I'm going to have to start from scratch. I know I can do it. I know I'm a lot tougher than, probably 95, 97% of the population. Man, I could probably get in there and win off grit alone. And, that's what I was doing for the better part of my amateur career. So
did you have any martial arts experience prior to that, or it was the first time?
No, I have JV level experience wrestling. That's it.
I thought you had some kickboxing background. That's amazing. So you were doing football your entire life, and you probably thought you're going to be a football player, and then suddenly this is completely different craft, and you're competing with people who actually spend their entire life training the martial arts, and you're beating the heck out of them. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. But like I said, man, I'm making up for lost time, man. These guys may have been training since they're 8 years old or whatnot. But man, like I said, man, I probably train, on average, between 4 and 6 hours a day, every day. Sunday's probably my lightest day, but even then I might go hit the bag or go for a run or something. So, man, I'm never like stagnant. So, I've been doing this for like 8 years now. So I've made up a lot of time in those 8 years.
So, in these 8 years, you got championship in LFA, and you fought for Bellator, and you fought in for UFC. Am I right? Man, that's crazy. And how did you start? Like, actually, take me back to the gym, to the beginning.
My first fight?
No, actually, let's go to still to the gym. So, you lost to Walt, and you decided to come next day, right, to the gym. And what were you? How was the training? Like, you start boxing, or did you start jiu-jitsu? What exactly was?
Man, I naturally gravitated towards jiu-jitsu just because, like I said, I wrestled a little bit when I was younger. So, I just kind of gravitated towards that a little bit better. But the gym we were training at didn't have no jiu-jitsu, 0 ground game, no wrestling. We never trained it, never did anything. It was just boxing. So, for me, I guess it was good because, I would have liked to started my whole career and been at a gym that had everything. But, striking was definitely the thing I had the least of. Man, I, could barely throw a body kick. I was so stiff, man, all we did was box, hit mitts and box. Not really much mitt hitting because, the coach had, problems showing up to training, which is, part of the reason why I left and whatnot. That particular gym, I'm over here at Spartan and have been ever since. So, man, that's all we did was box. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And Spartan, I thought you used to be an SBG, or you're no longer there?
Yeah. Our jiu-jitsu affiliation at Spartan Fitness is SBG.
Got it. And tell me about your first professional fight. I think you started amateur fighting first, and then you moved to professional fighters, right?
Yeah, I think, and this is just, let you know what poor coaching I had, back then. I boxed. I had my first MMA fight probably a month after I started training. I had a boxing match and an MMA fight in the same night. No athletic commission. We were in a bar in Huntsville, Alabama. Everybody smoking cigarettes. My coach didn't even show up, so I was there solo. I'm not even sure if I wrapped my hands. They called me on the way to the fight, and it was like, hey, they want you to have your blood work done within the last 6 months, and then asked me if I had like my blood work done in the last 6 months, and I was like, oh yeah, I had it done like 2 or 3 months ago. Just totally told a lie. Like, I haven't had my blood work done in like the last 6 months. But they were like, okay, and just hung up the phone. And it's like a 2-hour drive from here to there. And man, I was just thinking the whole time, I was like, man, if it was that easy for me to do that, what about the guy I'm finna fight? He probably did the same thing. He's, some redneck from the middle of nowhere, Alabama. He's not getting his blood work done. I know that for a fact. So, I think in the back of my mind, like, catching hepatitis or something like that was, in the back of my mind. But, the sport has come so far in the state of Alabama. Now we have a commission and, they run a pretty tight ship. So, things like that don't happen. And although it is a funny story to tell, it's probably not the best thing that I could have done. But, I had a boxing match and an MMA fight. I lost a split decision, the boxing match. And I knocked out the MMA guy in the MMA fight. I knocked the guy out in like 50 seconds. So, I was like, man, MMA is probably going to be
so those were back-to-back 2 fights?
Same night, yeah.
How much rest did you
probably like 45 minutes in between.
This is insane. That's when your training camp for next fight started, like 45 minutes prior to the next fight. That's fascinating. Exactly. And from there on, how did the things were changing?
Man, I was fighting like every other weekend, as an amateur, which is stupid because you're not getting paid. You know, you're just getting beat up. So, and taking unnecessary damage, because after a certain point, you're not getting any more cage experience. Like, you need to develop in the gym and then go fight, you know. And I wasn't doing that. So, man, you know, like I trained and trained and trained and trained. Finally ended up leaving that gym and training with started training with Chris Conley over there at Spartan Fitness, and you know, my career has just done this ever since. So you go back and watch the film, even from my first fight in the UFC to my last fight, the evolution in these last 2 or 3 years, I think is great, you know, and just getting better.
Looking at some of your biography, and I try to kind of learn a little more about you as a person, and I want to kind of chat with you about it. So, seems like I think you were born in Philippines, right?
Yeah, my mom was she was a nurse in the Air Force, so we moved around quite a bit when I was a kid.
How long you lived in the Philippines?
I was like 2, so I don't have any memory or recollection of the Philippines.
Then you came back to the U.S.?
Yeah, we came back to the U.S. We lived in Japan, and I've pretty much been in the U.S. The vast majority of my life.
Where exactly? Was it Texas or?
Man, we lived everywhere. We lived New Mexico, Maryland, Prattville, Alabama, when I was like 12, and then San Antonio for the most part.
And when you think of your childhood, what particular thing stands out? What do you really remember as the place where you were growing up?
Man, definitely Texas, man.
Texas.
Because it was just like a total culture shock. That place was, man. You know, even if you live in a city, you have to drive forever to get anywhere in Texas. And man, the football program was ridiculous. You know, we had 4 classes a day. This is in high school. We had 4 classes a day, and the third period of every class of every day was football practice. So you had an hour and a half football practice, run down from the school to the field house, get his dress. You know, it was like a fire drill. You know, get dressed as fast as you can, pants, shoulder pads, helmet, watch film, go practice, finish practice, shower, go eat lunch, go to the last period, then come back for another practice again. So I was essentially having 2-a-days in high school. And then in the off season, you know, that's when, you know, they had a strength and conditioning program in the spring and summer. So, you know, if I wasn't playing football or running track, you know, I was getting swole in the weight room. So, you know, just, you know, it was like a college lifestyle and atmosphere there.
Yeah, and I'm assuming at that point you already wanted to be a football player, right? When did you made up your mind? At what point in your life?
Man, probably when I was a young kid. You know, I do remember telling my mom that I wanted to box when I was a kid, and then she gave me the whole, man, you know, you're going to be brain dead, and you're going to get your teeth knocked out, and this, that, and the third. And so, you know, boxing was, you know, cut immediately. But then she was like, you can go play football and go run full speed and turn your body into a projectile. But, you know, in her defense, this is before all like the CTE and concussion and stuff started coming about. So, you know, I think it may have been a different story if I was a kid now versus then. So, yeah, dude, I remember watching Barry Sanders and wanting to be Barry Sanders. He's probably the only athlete ever that I've watched and kind of like idolized and be like, that's the dude that I want to be when I grow up.
And both your parents were supportive of this, or they wanted you to just play for yourself, not professionally? What was their take on that?
No, I mean, they just wanted me to have fun, man. You know,
Okay.
And you know, I had fun, and you know, I think as a parent, like, you don't know what level your kid can achieve. You know, like, you hope, and a lot of parents spend a lot of money to, you know, train their kids and have personal trainers and this, that, and the third and whatnot. You know, we didn't have all that when I was a kid. You know, it was football season, the next season, the next sport. And after that sport ended, next sport. After that season ended, next sport. So, you know, I played like 4 or 5 sports a year when I was a kid growing up. which is what I tell my kids that they need to do, because you can't just specialize in one sport, you know. I think there's a glaring statistic that says the kids that only play one sport, they get hurt more, they get injured more from the overuse of the same muscles over and over again. And, you know, just playing different sports, you know, you start working on different athletic ability, then you can put it all together in one. So
it's like mixed martial arts stuff, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But for like ball sports.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't think about it that way. If you like specialize in one sport and you do it over and over, I would kind of intuitively think that because you spend more time on that sport, you would be a little better. But I guess your point is like, yeah, but you're also more likely to damage yourself, right? Is it what?
Yeah, and you know, I think that, you know, if you play multiple sports, like you're not going to get the athleticism of a basketball player playing football. But if a football player plays basketball, man, his footwork is going to be good. It's going to be quick, turn, pivot, shuffle, do all those things. So I think it's important to, you know, play multiple sports and develop different aspects of athletic ability.
Yeah, I understand. So let's get back to MMA for a second. So when you fight for the title, who do you think your opponent would be?
I truly believe by the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I'll be in that top 5 and I'll be in the conversation. I do think that Israel Adesanya is going to be the man for the next year or so, at least. And then, you know, I like to think that whenever I fight him, I'll be the guy to dethrone him, because I'll be ready at that point, you know. So I think that Israel Adesanya will still be at the top of the piston pole at that point.
Is there any particular fighter you kind of eye and thinking like, hey, I would be interested just to fight this guy? Or it's...
Yeah, man. You know, there's a lot of guys that I think that would be fun for me. Like anybody who wants to fight me like Tiago fought me, sign me up. Because, you know, even though that I lost, man, I had so much fun in that fight, and probably more fun in that fight than any other fight. Because, one, it was a challenge. And I think, for me anyways, I think that some athletes are looking to be pushed to that level where they can't go anymore. And, you know, he brought that out of me. You know, granted, 6 days notice, just fought a month before, all that other good stuff. But, man, I've never been that tired, exhausted. And after it was all said and done with, I was like, man, you know, my ceiling is way higher than it would be tonight, you know, especially if I had been training and stuff. So, you know, the guy pushed me to a limit, to my limit. And, man, in a way, you know, I kind of owe him a thank you for that, because I think it made me a better fighter. The fans appreciated it. I got a new contract, blah, blah, blah. A lot of good things happened during that fight.
That's great. It's nice. And you guys are on good terms, too, I believe. I think I saw a picture of you together.
Yeah, we're cool. We're friends. You know, we talk chit-chat. You know, I don't go to his house for, you know, Sunday breakfast or nothing like that. But very cordial towards each other. Speak, talk, text, you know, wish him good luck before his fights and whatnot. And, man, he not only is he a great fighter, but he's a great human being as well. So, you know, I hope that guy gets nothing but success and everything that he wants in life.
Got it. I have a quick blitz for you. I'll be asking you a quick question and you give me a quick answer. How about that?
All right.
What's your favorite movie?
Braveheart.
Which one?
Braveheart.
Braveheart. Okay.
Mel Gibson. Yeah.
Favorite music artist?
Oh, man, I don't think I have one of those. I generally like music, all genres and whatnot. I don't think I have a favorite musician.
How old were you when you got your first tattoo?
18. I had to be out of the house. We traveled to they gave us like, I want to say they gave us like $800 when I was a freshman in college to travel to Dallas for our bowl game. But shit, I lived in San Antonio anyway, so I went home for Christmas and then drove like 4 hours north to Dallas, so I didn't have to spend any money. And I didn't spend $800 on a tattoo. I think I spent like $100 on my initials on the back of my arm. Did
your parents notice? Oh yeah, it's back on your arm.
Oh yeah, but I was 18 at that point. I was living in college. I didn't have to ask for permission no more. So, you know, that was kind of like my first, you know, I don't want to say adult thing, but Oh man, I don't have to ask anybody for permission. I can just go in here, tell the dude what I want. He's gonna put it on there, and I don't have to hide anything or say sorry or ask for forgiveness or nothing like that. So,
What's your favorite place in the world?
favorite place in the world? Oh man, that's another tricky question, man. Me and my wife, we travel so much. Actually, you know, I take that back. Rome, Italy, I think
Hmm.
is the my favorite place that you know, we've traveled to so far, man. Just a great atmosphere, and you know, being a fighter, you know, I've often thought to myself that, you know, aside from the slavery thing, man, this, you know, I pretty much do what they did back then now. It's not to the death or anything. I can go home, hug my kids and wife and whatnot. Like, I don't have to, like, you know, get the thumbs up or thumbs
Yeah.
down from Caesar or nothing like that. But I think it's as close as you can get to that. Uh, and man, just walking through the Coliseum and you know, things like that just sends chills through your body. So awesome experience, awesome people, great food.
They should have a UFC in the Coliseum. Would be fascinating. I never even
Man, you know,
thought
I
that.
think that Bellator tried to run that.
That would be
Bellator,
fascinating. Yeah, it's
yeah, they
so
weren't
much
having
history
that.
behind it. What's the first item on your bucket list?
First item on my bucket list, man. Off the top of my head, climbing Everest is something I've always wanted to do. But man, I think Joe Rogan posted a picture of like 100 people this year have
The
froze to
line,
death
yeah.
waiting in line to get to the top. So it's like, it's not fascinating to me anymore that many people are doing it. The people are freezing to death waiting to take their selfie at the top. So man, I don't know, man. I guess win the belt is on my bucket list.
That's a great bucket list item. And
Mm-hmm.
final question: what's your advice to young people who want to become MMA fighters one day?
Man, you got to train, man. You know, there's a lot of things that go into the sport. Training, outside of just the training. You know, I see guys and their wives at some of these UFC events that are just, you know, causing hell, and you know, I'm just like, just. But outside of like choosing like your partner or whatnot, like you can't leave any. You know, there's confidence in preparation, and just because you train, you know, as hard as you can, doesn't mean that you're going to win the fight. But you want to put yourself in the best possible position to win the fight before the fight even starts. Because once that cage door closes and the ref says go, anything can happen. But if you're confident in what you're doing and how you prepare for the fight, you know you can push the pace. You know you can do whatever it takes. Win the scrambling exchanges, win the striking exchanges, defend the takedown or get the takedown if you want. And it just puts your game on a whole nother level when you're fully prepared for a fight.
Got it. Well, Eryk, thank you very much. That's a great advice, and I appreciate the interview, man.
Hey,
Thanks.
appreciate it, brother. Anytime.